Hey everyone, welcome to Open Source Friday. This is a Twitch stream where I chat with open source maintainers and contributors about different projects that are impacting our software development ecosystem. Today I'll be joined by Fabio from PyScript. Let me bring him up. Hey Fabio.
Hi, Roselle. Good to see you again. How's it going?
It's going good. It's going good. Thanks for joining me today. If you can, would you please like to tell us about yourself, who you are, what you've been doing? And then also I see some people are viewing us right now. I'd love to know where y'all are calling in from and who's watching and listening in.
Sounds good. So I'm Fabio. I work for Anaconda as a software engineer, architect, and been with the company for almost 8 years now. Joined when it was quite small still, and I joined as a Bokeh core developer. Bokeh is a visualization library for Python on the browser. It's an
Okay.
open source project. I've done that project for as main work for 2 3 years, and then internally I started another project called Anaconda Fusion, which was a project to allow uh, Excel users to use Jupyter Notebook uh, functions, data science models, and things like this from Excel, just like
Ooh.
an Excel function. Um, and that led me to work with our data science platform. Done that for some time, 2 3 years, and then in the last 2 years, I've been focusing mainly on more architectural level things, supporting teams, kickstarting new initiatives, more horizontally focused. And in the last 6 to 9 months, I've been focusing on working on PyScript. And before that, I've been involved in the open source community and specifically Python for a long time. I'm old and been there for almost 20 years now, and used to run the PyCon Italy conferences to organize that. I helped to found the Python Italy Association, which is basically a nonprofit in Italy to promote Python. Then I've been also organizing EuroPython conferences in from 2011 to 2016 ish,
Wow.
and helped there, being chairman for 3 4 years there, and then when I moved to the US, I've been focusing mainly on Anaconda.
Oh wow. So you're like deep into the Python system. You started off at Anaconda. Um what is PyScript and like how did it come out of Anaconda? Like what's the relation there?
So PyScript is a framework that allow users to use Python on the browser through tags and basically web components, and directly allowing them to add scripts in the page with just a tag, or
Oh.
add a REPL element where they can play with Python and then execute code in real time. And
Yeah.
overall, it's meant to be a framework that allow users to program really fast and easily.
Mm.
It's very early on in its stage, but the goal really is to promote programming for everyone,
Yeah.
basically lowering the barrier for anyone, not developers, to start using it.
Okay. Okay.
Um, and like how it started. So I Well, one of the reasons that I joined Anaconda is because I share a lot of the vision of the company. I know the founders from long time,
Okay.
and I know that they've been involved in open source for a long time as well. And one of the things that Anaconda tries to do is, uh, you know, empower everyone with data science, and we say like empower everyone with data literacy. So
Okay.
the company really is committed to creating open source tools to solve problems like data visualization, high performance computing, distributed computing, and things like that. And one of the visions is how can we empower everyone, not only developers, to
Yes.
solve the problems. So uh, so this idea has been, I would love to claim, but that it's I started the seed, but probably Peter Wang, who's is the CEO of Anaconda, and we've been talking about this for years, and he's very passionate about this, and we all. So I think last year we were talking, and talking about the current state of things, and one thing to led to the other, saying the ecosystem is pretty mature to build
Mhm.
something like this, and we talked for a few weeks and months about that idea, collecting ideas and designing things on a Notion project. And then I asked him, okay, all cool, when can we start working on this? And he's like,
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Wow.
And yeah, free your time. And so I started working on this, and built up a prototype quite fast. And then we he was going to speak at PyCon this year, so
Yeah.
he we had way longer times in mind. And he's like, okay, what if we say instead of 9 months, we can demo something and then demo the project in PyCon in 4 months. I was like, oh,
Wow, that's
okay, let's
scary.
do it. Yeah, that's scary. Uh, yeah, but it was also good because we wanted to sell the idea to everyone and get
Mhm.
people excited about it. And PyScript is really like a community. It's not meant to be an Anaconda thing. It's meant to be a community thing owned by the community. uh,
Okay.
Not only Python, but the web development, the web community as well. So if we can shake the status quo of things and inspire people to join on or build things like this, then let's do it. So,
Yeah.
and pretty happy about how it went so far.
Yeah, I love how you said you're using PyScript to empower others, not just developers. I'm really curious to see how it all works because I was imagining it was just like now you can use PyScript with HTML and not just JavaScript. So I'm not sure what to imagine. And then also we have a really interesting question here, which we'll get to later on after your demo. But they're curious about running PyScript in containers. So
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this? Yeah. So why don't we, if you're feeling comfortable, jump into the demo.
Yes.
Because now I'm like, I need to
Yeah.
know.
Sounds good. So let me share my screen.
Cool.
So this is the homepage of the project. If you all want to get more information about it, pyscript.net. And skipping to a demo. So this is a very simple demo. All it does is it has a time, shows the current time, and it has a timer that keeps scrolling. And since I'm Italian, half Brazilian, but anyway, love coffee. So every now and then it's espresso time. So the code for this is here,
Okay.
and basically it looks like pretty much like a normal website, right?
Mhm.
HTML tags, etc. There are a few differences, which like we created new tags to allow people to use Python, and starting with Python, hopefully we will support more languages and stuff. But so with this, I can load libraries or files from my file system, or a CDN somewhere. In this case, it's utils.py. And then I can use this tag PyScript to actually use Python in the browser. And I can just paste my code within the tag, and then it will be parsed. Underneath, we use a project called Pyodide that basically is a Python implementation for WebAssembly using
Ooh,
Mscripten.
okay.
Um, that is when I said we were talking, and we thought time is mature enough for us to build this. It's basically because of that. There's been a lot of development in the web ecosystem around WebAssembly and other projects like Pyodide, or there are others for other languages that allow to run on the browser, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
So to show something a little more sophisticated, this one is basically
Ooh,
showing a plot that is a plot using matplotlib, which is a very popular plotting library for Python, directly in the browser. This other one is using Altair, which is another library, and it has some interactivity that you can, click here and there, and everything is written in Python.
wow.
Without having to change much of the syntax or anything like this. Folium is another one that is interesting to explore data sets. As you can see, a lot of those things are related to the Python ecosystem because we've been there for a long time. But
Yeah.
the idea is to start with this, but also build more tags and more things to lower the barrier for the user.
Okay.
Um, so there's another example where Python users have been envy and jealous of JavaScript for D3, and now finally they can use, in
D3.
Python they can use D3 directly.
Wow.
Um, let's see,
So
Raycaster is another. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
wait, I'm just curious, how are they able to use D3 directly with PyScript?
Great question. So basically, let me go back to the example. But underneath, uh, Pyodide, which is the Python runtime that we distribution that we use, it has a Python to or mscript or Python to JavaScript and JavaScript to Python interface. So you can actually from Python import JavaScript things, and from JavaScript you can import Python
Python.
things.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which it's actually definitely in the direction of the mission of the vision of the project, right? Like we really want to be additive to the ecosystem in general, either Python or JavaScript. We don't want to compete. So if now the Python ecosystem is richer because I can use JavaScript things, and vice versa, the
Yeah.
JavaScript world is can take benefits from this and use Python libraries in the browser to do data science or whatever it is. It's a win-win.
That's so
So
cool.
yeah, in this case, so like here's the example. This is the example in JavaScript, which pretty normal JavaScript. This is the example in Python, and side by side, they're very much comparable.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, wow.
Uh,
And I see some questions in the chat. Normally I wait for later, but I do think these two questions I'm seeing are relevant
mhm.
and interesting. Um I don't know how to pronounce your username, Yelmazichify. Sorry, but basically they're asking, can we say it is a template engine? And then what are the limitations of PyScript? Can you, for instance, run OpenCV or MediaPipe?
Great questions. So I wouldn't say it's a template framework. It's more of a framework itself that uses it collects different technologies to provide and provides an interface to users to use them. And it's also the vision for the project is way more ambitious than being a template system. We really want to make sure that we can add components for people to write their applications in PyScript itself and then save them and publish them right away. Also, a big component of this is that nowadays most applications and websites they have a client side component and a server side component. Now that people a lot of the code that people are running on the server side in Python can be run in the client itself. It simplifies the architecture, and we can allow people to run applications that were very complex in way simpler way. So in that sense, it's sort of a glue framework where we want to collect as much as possible and combine. So, for instance, you can easily think of a UI framework on top of JavaScript, of PyScript to allow users to build, forms or things pretty much like React or Vue and other things like this. there are many possibilities.
Love that. Thanks for that answer. And sorry
Mhm.
for interrupting your demo.
No
Feel
worries,
free
no
to
worries.
continue.
So I'll try to be fast
It's okay.
if also there are other questions. So this is another one, just using OpenGL and
Oh,
Python
that's
to
so
display
cool.
3D stuff in the browser. Um, those are very cool. For the next ones are very familiar to the Python data science stack. A lot of times people need to create dashboards and graphics to display data and interact with data. This one is showing it's running a model, the k-means clustering model, to display data and analyze data. So based on the number of clusters, you can change things, and it will change what's displayed. And you can change dimensions, interact with the data, yada yada yada. Um,
That's
so
cool.
this other one is showing a demo where it's streaming data and runtime and plotting on the browser. This is the bokeh plotting library that I was mentioning before, that I where I
Cool.
started in Anaconda. Um, this other one is pretty cool. It's using DACGL to display the New York taxi data data set on the browser, where you can run analysis, and basically it's showing the number of rides at a certain time of the day in New York, and has
Oh,
some to understand the peaks and areas and things like this. So, and you can interact with it, um, run and do all sorts of things. And if you change the hour, you'll see how it changes. And because of the dynamic nature of PyScript, this example also shows, we added a REPL. We call it a REPL, which is basically a code editor that you can
oh, you
interact with the
could
data.
inside there? Okay, cool. Let's
Yeah.
see.
So like if you do app dot hour equals and run it, it will change the data itself.
Oh.
And you can get more things like more elevation as well.
And can I make sure I'm understanding these symbols, I guess? So like when it's taller, that just means there's more requests for taxis in that area.
Right.
And okay, okay.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And it has some interactivity. If you click on it, it shows on those the main paths from here to here and vice versa. Um, and then, but those are just examples of things that you can do today to with it, right? So this last one is super recent. It's an example that I created 2-3 weeks ago. I was speaking at a conference about PyScript, and I thought, would be cool to actually show the slides in PyScript itself, so in JavaScript and PyScript. So
Oh,
I
that's
created
cool.
this sort of slideshow app or extension for PyScript that you can writing Markdown or just HTML. You can create slides,
That's
right?
super
So
useful.
yeah, so you can. It's just an example. It has some interactivity, and you can actually use PyScript itself in it. So if I want to like import anti-gravity, which is like a very popular
What?
inside joke for Python. It's a very popular comic.
That's
And if you
cool.
do, it can actually interact with objects in the page and stuff like this.
That's so cool. Oh my god. But this is just static, right? Like you if you went back to this slide deck, it wouldn't be saved? Or would it be saved?
Uh, no, it wouldn't
Okay.
be saved.
Okay,
Actually,
okay.
that's not a bad idea. Maybe we should do this.
But this is cool though, especially being able to like write live code in there. Like that's great for demos to be like, "Oh, now I'm going to go ahead and do this." This is so cool.
Yeah, thank you. And that's pretty much it.
I loved it. Thank you. This was a great demo. I always love to bring it because I'm more of like a Jamstack person.
Hmm.
So I'm like in the JavaScript world. So I always love to bring in folks from different um I don't know what to call it, like who are into different programming languages just so I can
Yeah.
keep up. So people have questions. I don't know how to say your username, but you have some really great questions. They said, do you have any plans for a PWA?
Yes,
Ooh.
that's a great question. And so, great sense for progressive web applications, and we would love to create native support for those. One of the main struggles right now with PyScript is that because it relies on top of Pyodide, that relies on Emscripten, that is on top of WebAssembly. It has a long loading time, and
Oh.
the best way to avoid this is actually through progressive web applications, where you can already preload and pack everything into a bundle, a thing that you just ship, and it's already loaded. So yes, would love to work on this soon. So yes, the answer yes.
Okay, that's so exciting to hear that y'all are supporting
Mhm.
progressive web apps soon. The other question from Chef was um, they were interested about running PyScript in containers.
Great question. And so somehow we already are running in containers. Like um, one of the premises for this to work is that the browser itself is a container that we can use to ship Python and ship applications and stuff like this. That's also why we the level of abstractions for Python to run is great, because the browsers themselves already think about security, preventing from access to the file system and things like this. So in one way, it's we're already doing this, but some of the ideas for the future is that there's a lot of development in the WebAssembly ecosystem around um, units of work, and actually seeing the WebAssembly environment as a container where you can also transfer computation from one where it's running, let's say on the browser, to the server side and keep computation there. So in that sense, that's something that we were very interested in. More on the traditional side of what we need container today, like Docker and other things like this,
Yeah.
I'm not sure I see the use cases. I'd love to hear, if there's anything in mind. You have anything in mind? So if you want to tweet about it and tag me, that would be great.
Good idea. Yeah, yeah. Chef, go ahead and tweet about it and start discussing about the use case for containers in PyScript. Cool. This was a really great demo. If there are more questions from the audience, start asking them now, y'all, because I love to have short streams. Like when they're short and sweet, that's perfect for me. um, so
Oh, we had another question that I forgot to answer
oh,
earlier, which what are the limitations?
oh yes.
Um, right, if I can use OpenCV and MediaPipe. Um, I'm not sure about those two. The limitations are pretty much related to the limitations of running Python on the browser.
Okay.
The the browser is requires things to run asynchronously, because obviously you don't want to hold freeze the page while it's computing, etc.
Yeah.
Python pretty much works synchronously by default. So there's a bit of a clash in there. So things like multiprocessing or threading or asynchronous, some of them do not work, or some of them do not work yet, or some of them just behave differently. And IO is also different, WebSockets.
Okay.
So, for instance, request is a very popular Python library that allows you to connect to and send requests to a web server or something. That will not work out of the box, and because they use sockets, and you can only use WebSockets on the browser. There are some things that one can do to prevent those, like use web workers, but those are not out of the box already implemented. So And those are limitations that are not really PyScript limitations. They're more related to Python on the browser and Pyodide. So as they get better on upstream, we'll also benefit from them.
Okay, great. That was a good answer. Someone kind of tried to answer, I believe, the container question. PTMCG said you could pre-package the static website with PyScript HTML and serve in a Docker container. So hopefully that was helpful to you, Chef. And then this is my bad. Andres asked, and I hope I'm saying your name right, Andres, but they asked for your Twitter handle, and usually I have the handles and our name underneath our pictures, but I messed up. You could follow Fabio at B_smoke. Are there any other places where people should follow you or reach out to you?
Great question. I think pretty much Twitter is the main social media that I use.
Okay.
Yeah.
Me too. That's my spot. I love it. And then for now that I'm going to transition out of the tech questions, unless I see more in the chat, my other two questions to you
Mhm.
are like, what's your favorite Beyonce song, and then what's your favorite food? And
Great
Beyonce
question.
just came out with an album last night, so or
Right.
yeah.
So I may have a different answer in a week. But I'm old, so I'm more. My cat just bumped on the monitor. Sorry.
No
Um,
worries.
so I'm old. So I think the main songs that I like the most are when I used to go, to clubs and stuff. And so I think Crazy in Love, Single Ladies, all of those
I
are.
love that. I love that song. I even like her Destiny's Child's moments, but Crazy in Love, that's a bop.
I would say actually yes. I definitely say Destiny's Child was my favorite period of her career. Yeah, sign up for this.
Love
Um,
it.
favorite food is really hard. So I'm half Brazilian, half Italian, and if I
Okay.
say one single dish, I'll people will kill
There's a
me.
lot of
So
good foods in both countries.
exactly. So anywhere from pasta to churrasco or pizza and other things like this, lasagna, you name it.
Ooh. I always get hungry from this stream. Now I'm thinking about lasagna. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking your time to come share with us about PyScript and tell more of the community about it and how to use it. And I was really intrigued by learning like how y'all came up with this idea and just learning about you all like speeding up the timeline and presenting it at PyCon. And also, hey to your cat. My cat's always like walking across my
I
keyboard.
know, right? Yes. No, thank you for inviting me and having me here. I really love the initiative and everything that you all are doing for the community and open source projects. It's really important to show what people are doing out there, and so really thank you for what you do.
Awesome. Thank you. And thanks for everyone who tuned in. I really appreciate y'all's comments and just y'all like tuning in general. It's always nice to see that there's more than one person actually watching this. So thank y'all and bye. See you next week.